I think that there's a major fallacy when we say that men don't like to talk about mental health or that nobody wants to talk about men's mental health. There's some barriers there. There's the stigma aspect. There is the deep-seated feelings of to be vulnerable is to be weak. But I think we're talking about it now more than ever. And I just think that we're kind of up against it sometimes with the world in which we're living. I'm eager to talk about mental health. For me, not talking about it is more exhausting. Trying to disguise it and hide it and pull myself up by my bootstraps, so to speak. To me, that's more exhausting than if I actually do open up and I'm honest about it.
Chris Heimerman has been a friend for years, as well as a mental health advocate in the community. He's always been open about his own mental health journey and joined us to share his story.
The first time I went and I saw a counselor, I was the guy walking through the parking lot. I was working as a hockey broadcaster at the time. Talk about a sport rife with masculinity.
Yeah.
Perhaps a fair amount of toxic masculinity. But I remember walking through the parking lot with a hoodie and like the hoodie drawn up and like down because I didn't want anybody to see that the voice of the lumberjacks was going to see a therapist.
Yeah.
I felt like I would have been outed at the time.
When do you feel like you first knew that you were struggling with mental health?
I have these blurry memories of being a child, like an elementary age school child, and just wondering why I felt so sad about either nothing or something incredibly trivial in the grand scheme of things. So, I mean, when I look back, I can see that I've been dealing with it pretty much for as long as I can remember. And I think my response was to be the class clown. I think my response was to do my best to always be upbeat, to always keep people laughing. In terms of when I mean, because really what we're going to start talking about now is like how I dealt with it, which was in a very unhealthy way with substances. And my drug of choice was alcohol. So I would say probably in my 20s, I started to learn that, you know, alcohol was a wonderful numbing agent.
What was kind of like the point where you felt like, okay, this is too much, I need to do something?
I didn't realize that alcohol was such an issue, really, and I've been thinking about this despite all of the times that I've shared my story and stuff. I can identify when it became a problem, and it was when I began hiding it.
You were working, you were married, you had your girls, twin girls that you were raising, training for Ironman. I mean, that just sounds like, it sounds like you would almost be too busy to drink, you know what I mean? But really
Yeah.
you were drinking to stay that busy, I guess.
And in a way, I was getting myself up at 5 a.m. the next day to get in my run, to sweat it out. Or dare I go one step further and say that I was doing it to punish myself? Like my relationship with running was not healthy at that time.
Okay.
So yeah, but it really was like, you look at this guy's life, editor of a newspaper, a beautiful family, doing marathons. It's like, yeah, put him on the cover of Men's Health, right? And in reality, I was suffering in silence.
That suffering in silence, you know, we say that term, that phrase a lot, but what does that feel like when you're in it?
Being trapped, that this is it for me. that I'm always going to be hiding this thing, and I'm just never going to be free of it. And I'm just grateful that on one fateful Friday afternoon, I decided that enough was enough. And it's kind of in a twisted way. I decided enough was enough, and I tried to drink myself to death. And I don't know what it was about sort of standing at the brink and realizing that and messaging my wife and telling her, I need help. I'm drunk, I need help. And that was when we got me into rehab.
Chris spent 2 weeks in rehab in the spring of 2019. For the next few years, he continued to struggle with emotional highs and lows, as well as getting divorced in 2023.
When I found out just how hard it was going to be to love myself and how hard it was going to be to actually grieve my divorce and grieve my marriage, I kind of hit rock bottom a little bit. And I ended up in the hospital and in an intensive outpatient therapy program, and during which I got a new diagnosis of bipolar, which when it was pointed out to me and explained to me what it is, it was like, wow, yes, that makes perfect sense. Like, it's a diagnosis that fits like a glove. That excitement was very quickly replaced by the fact that I got put on a new medication. We took another medication out of there, and I'm just leveled. I'm tired, and I miss my energy. I miss my zest for life, and I simply have to stay the course on what we're doing, because I know that I will turn the corner. By the grace of God, I have parents who know about my stuff, and I was able to call them and share what was going on. And my dad came down and hung out for a few days to keep an eye on me, and we started the recovery process.
I'm Bruce Heimerman, his dad.
What was it like, even just now, hearing us in the other room talking about Chris's story?
Memories. I remember a lot of what happened, but some of it I didn't know about. So yeah, it kind of touched a nerve a little bit, and just, it hurts
Sure.
knowing that he suffered. Sorry.
It's okay.
No, I don't know if I was enough.
If you were enough of what?
If I was around enough, if I was there for him enough.
You were always there. You were always there for me. I never felt a lack of having a dad. I just learned really early on how to hide how I was feeling. And that's a regret that I have of my own too, is that I didn't speak up and advocate for myself when I was younger.
I found him when I came down, just when he said in June. I walked in the house and he was sitting on the couch, I think, if I remember right, and we talked a little bit, and just looking at him and hearing him, he was lost. And when I looked at him, I thought, my son is broken. And I didn't know how to help him.
You just being here was huge, though. Having you here to keep an eye on me was absolutely tremendous, Dad.
I wake up in the morning and I thank God for giving me another day. So that's what kind of makes it so hard, is because I don't understand. I didn't understand. I'm starting to. I'm learning, and I'll continue helping him.
That statement, that commitment to learning, when I hear that, it warms my heart.
Yeah.
Because then I know that you're doing the work as well. Then I know I'm not in this bunker alone.
No, you're not. It's not about being weak, it's about helping. It's about saving somebody.
Thanks, Dad.
Yep. Love you. Love you too.
Funding provided in part by the Charles E. Kubley Foundation, committed to improving the lives of those impacted by depression since 2003.